Well, joining me right now is Mieke Eoyang, Vice President for the National Security Program at Third Way. Ken Vogel's political reporter with the New York Times, and Joyce Vance's former federal prosecutor and MSNBC legal analyst. I've got to go to Ken on this. What does he mean in terms of news-making today when he says he may get involved with the DOJ? We all know what it means when he says he's not involved. Getting involved sounds like you're fired.
It sounds a lot like that, and he has suggested that he might do just that on multiple occasions. He set different red lines, suggesting that he would do it if Mueller waded into his business interests. Well, we've seen some indications that just that is occurring. Certainly, it would be logical to assume that that type of investigation is occurring. So now you have him saying it again, and you could tell he's really bristling against his own legal team and his staff telling him not to do that, as well as the body politic writ large, including Republicans. We saw the Senate Judiciary Committee just today pass out of committee a bill to protect Mueller. That's a pretty strong signal that there would be quite a price to pay if Donald Trump did anything to either try to fire Mueller
strong
or
signal. He basically told the people who are investigating him, if you investigate me anymore, I'll fire you. It was pretty clear what he was saying. I wonder if that's, I get the choice, but in you, just general observation, it sounds like he's threatening them with firing them if they do their jobs.
That's right. He's not interested in having a Justice Department that's objective and looking at the law. He sees this as a tool for his own personal and political protection. He suggested that he wants people to look at his political opponents. He suggested that he needs his own Roy Cohn. He wants a guy who's a fixer for him as the Attorney General and not someone who's interested in enforcing the laws fairly.
He wants to break into the DNC, he said, basically implied, why didn't they break in? They were the victims of the hacking. And he says, why didn't they raid them? It was crazy. Joyce, your thoughts about this thing where he says, I may have to get involved. Like, don't ask me to, what is that? Al Roker said, don't ask me to, your father to stop the car. I might go in the back with the kids back there. Like, this threat is pretty direct from Trump. Are you listening, Joyce? Like this, I'm sorry, she's not reacting because she's not hearing. Anyway, back to you, Ken. But let's go to this other question. The Democrats, he's out there calling out the members of the prosecution team as a bunch of Democrats. Well, I don't think Comey's a Democrat, and I don't think Rosenstein's a Democrat. I'm not sure who is.
Yeah, we've seen this before. It has to do with talking about Andrew McCabe and Andrew McCabe's wife and the links to Terry McAuliffe. This is something that he's tried to do before. It seems to be geared towards the end game, to trying to sort of minimize or set him up to be able to minimize any adverse finding that Mueller has in regards to him, to be able to say the whole thing was tainted. Now, the Comey thing is more interesting, to pit himself against Comey. Comey is really just a sort of a bit player in this. It's not about Comey. Anything that they would get from Comey, they'd be able to get from any number of other witnesses who they've already talked to. But Comey is in the news, and he can't resist taking a shot at someone who was taking a shot at him.
He's on his book tour. Anyway, disputing the Comey memos, Trump said that during the Miss Universe pageant, he did this is the first time he said this. He said it this morning on Fox and Friends. He did stay overnight in Moscow. I never told Comey otherwise.
For instance, I went to Russia for a day or so, a day or two, because I own the Miss Universe pageant. So I went there to watch it because it was near Moscow. So I go to Russia. Now, I didn't go there. Everybody knows the logs are there, the planes are there. He said I didn't stay there at night. Of course I stayed there. I stayed there a very short period of time, but of course I stayed. Well, his memo said I left immediately. I never said that. I never said I left immediately.
Well, James Comey, when he was FBI director and FBI director under Trump, he said in his memos that on 2 occasions the president personally told him that he hadn't stayed overnight in Russia during the Miss Universe trip. Trump's apparent change of tune this morning comes after overwhelming documentary evidence, eyewitness accounts, and even flight records have emerged in the last week that show that Trump did, in fact, stay overnight in Moscow. Comey also stands by his recollection of those conversations with the president and says that Trump's lie shows consciousness of guilt. Here he goes. Comey.
You think it's significant that the president lied to you twice about that?
It's always significant when someone lies to you, especially about something you're not asking about. It tends to reflect a consciousness of guilt, as we would say in law enforcement.
So President Trump did that a lot of times with you, brought up stuff that you haven't asked about.
Correct.
Joyce, is fascinating. We've got our sound with you now. I've been waiting to ask you about the law here. Trump is out there now saying that he did stay overnight. after letting it sit out there for a week that his claim he hadn't. That, of course, is sort of like trying to set up an alibi. I was in the plane or I was back home. I couldn't have been there during that event. He's been alleged to have been witness to in the dossier, the two prostitutes. Now, the question then is, what's this tell us that now he's coming out and saying, yeah, okay. Is he trying to avoid a perjury situation here?
You know, he volunteered information to Comey. It turns out it's not true. And so he's backed up his story and said, no, I never told Comey that I didn't spend the night there. And Chris, this is why prosecutors love contemporaneous notes so much. Because Jim Comey, when he wrote his notes down, hadn't yet been fired, no special counsel had been appointed, and he had no way of knowing what might be of interest a year down the road. So prosecutors will look at Comey's notes with that very deliberate point of view that he had no reason to make anything up back then, as opposed to the president's new revisionist history version of those conversations.
Well, let's get over that again. I want to run that with all three of you now who are here with the show, because I don't see any sense in him trying to plaster up this ridiculous alibi that he was on the plane back. He wasn't even there. He couldn't have been in front of those two prostitutes in that hotel room. It couldn't have happened at the Ritz-Carlton over there in Moscow. None of it could have happened because I wasn't there. And now it's clear that he was there the night before for sure. And my question is, why would he say that knowing all this could be verified? Tom Roberts interviewed him, talked to him, verified his position there the day before he interviewed him. So he was there at least one overnight and could have been witness to this kind of thing, at least in terms of opportunity, whether he did it or not. Why would he lie?
So what Comey was saying in that moment was that he was concerned that the First Lady might find out that he had been engaged in some kind of activities with these prostitutes, and he didn't want her to know. But it's very clear that he's not as interested now in protecting his fidelity in front of the First Lady, given everything that's happened with Stormy Daniels.
Okay, but why would he lie to the FBI director who clearly has access to information?
I mean, he just can't help himself, right? He needs to be telling his narrative that makes him look like the good guy at any given time, and then he changes his story later when it turns out that that wasn't the right thing to say.
You know, people in history have gone down. Alger Hiss, they couldn't prove he was a spy necessarily in those days, but they did later. But he really went down and went to prison for 5 years because he lied, because he said he didn't know Whittaker Chambers. I mean, here's a guy saying something that just isn't true. Now, he's not going to get down for what he said to Comey in the White House conversation, but I think he was afraid, wasn't he, Ken, that he would have to back that up in a later hearing, a so-called conversation with Mueller's people, in which if he backed it up again, he would have perjured himself.
Yeah, I mean, it is important to point out that context, that this was not, you know, this would probably be considered hearsay in the context of this investigation. It was an informal conversation, but it does get, I think, to what Comey was saying, as to motive and intent, and certainly it's not exactly news that Trump has been known to change his story, particularly on sensitive things like this. But the point here is that Comey has Mueller has so much proof and so much evidence from so many different people that whatever Comey said in this memo is probably a very tiny part of this investigation, if really part of it at all, on this point, because he's talked to so many people.
Let me tell you, the salacious aspect of this thing, Joyce, everybody who's followed this case has heard about the so-called golden shower, the whole thing. They've all heard the grossness about it. And a lot of people who don't like Trump generally think he's probably guilty. A lot of people are skeptical that he, even as a private citizen, would engage in something like that, which everybody knows over in Russia is televised and used against you if you're a traveling U.S. businessman. So what's this consciousness of guilt thing? How do you think about that? When Comey said today in an interview with Anderson Cooper, the consciousness of guilt is established when you start denying things you aren't accused of.
I think it would be a mistake to read too much into that and to make the assumption that Jim Comey was saying that this salacious incident in Russia actually took place. We know that this Steele dossier was based on raw data, raw intelligence. Even Steele indicated some of it was correct, likely some of it was just information that he had recorded that was inaccurate. But it does seem to show that overall the president is sensitive on these subjects, that he's concerned about the investigation looking into his relationships with Russians. And it's very true that Mueller has a lot more information than has come into the public domain, likely knows exactly where those pressure points are. And that's frankly what we can expect from the next part of this investigation.
But Chris, on this, right, we have to remember why this information was in the dossier to begin with, because it was so salacious. People believed it was compromat. It was compromising information that the Russians might have over the president. And in a counterintelligence sense, that is a very big national security threat, that they could use that information to get him to do what they want, for fear that it would be revealed.
And also, so many people know about the Russian MO when it comes to traveling U.S. Famous personages, or lesser men, in fact. Anyway, Mieke Eoyang, thank you, Kenneth Bogle, and thank you, Joyce Vance. Coming up.